Please give a warm ConnectiCon welcome to the Hand of the King, Ryan Pagella, aka Agent A, or as you know him, Agenta. So Ryan, please tell the beautiful people some things about yourself.
Sure. First of all, thank you all for coming to ConnectiCon this year. It's been a really awesome year. I'm really happy to be here with doing the press junket again. Last year I was incredibly sick, and today I'm not, so I actually will remember this, and that's awesome. We are doing really well here at ConnectiCon. All of our events have been going over really amazingly. I can't give numbers yet, so if you are interested in knowing how many people attended the convention, we'll announce it at closing ceremonies today, which is in Special Events 1, which is the Marriott Ballroom. I am the vice president. Sometimes I'm called the Hand of the King. I keep a little pin on myself, which is not here because it broke over the weekend, so that was interesting. And then my backup pin also broke. I wasn't doing anything crazy. It's just, ConnectiCon weekend. So anyway, yes, I am the vice president. I've been doing the vice president position for the past 2 years. The previous VP, Jim Searle, passed the job on to me when he stepped down to join his family and get engaged, so congratulations to him. I started here at ConnectiCon in 2007, and I started in the main events department because back then we were a much smaller convention before our growth sprouted, and we ran all the main events like Masquerade and the Dating Game, eventually what became the Death Match. And then I branched off and developed another department, which is Cosplay HQ for all of our cosplay events. And then eventually I made the photography department, and then I started making the YouTube page. So, every single time I feel like we need something new and fresh, I usually get the department going. And once the ball's rolling, I pass it off to one of the members of that particular group, and they become the new manager of it. So. But that's my background, and that's where I come from. And if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them about ConnectiCon and anything you'd like to know about the con behind the scenes. I can go ahead and answer that for you. Yes?
I am a fan, and I've been coming to this convention since year one when you guys started to college.
Yep.
I've been impressed for at least 2 years, not last year because I was ill. And I notice every year that ConnectiCon just keeps getting bigger and bigger. Do you see this convention in the future potentially getting big enough to the point where you might have to go somewhere bigger than the Connecticut Convention Center?
As the convention grows, it's always a new challenge for us every single year because we are quickly running out of space. As you may have noticed, we had programming over at the Hartford Hilton this year because there wasn't enough room here in the convention center. We've had many discussions about other places we could expand to. Hartford, this is like the only venue in Hartford, essentially, plus the XL Center. And we've discussed other areas in Connecticut, but this is all there is. So as we grow, we're just adding on additional venues here in Hartford, whether it's at the hotels or other locations. And as I said, it's a challenge because we have to figure it out every single year as to where we're going to be. But we wouldn't branch out to like another city or anything like that. But yes, as we grow, we are going to slowly take over Hartford, and that is the idea. That's what we'd like to do. Dragon Con has a very similar way they operate, and I'd like to think that we're heading in that direction. More questions? Yes.
Hi, I'm Sarah with More Powder. What are some challenges in getting a convention running that you don't think people are aware of or that you want people to know about?
Getting a convention running is always difficult because it comes down to organization and money because, we have to make down payments in all these wonderful venues that we have, and also all the equipment that we use. Also, organizing these events and finding people to do it is the biggest thing because you need a lot of people that want to volunteer to do this. And since we are a completely volunteer staff, nobody is paid here. We do this because we just love doing it. Right now we have roughly 300 staff members. We had to the most interesting thing we had to do is try and figure out where they were all going to come from, because it's been like the same group of people for like the past 10 years, and then in the past couple of years we really needed to expand and add new members. So we were advertising on the website that we needed more staff. But I think the toughest part when you're trying to build a convention is of the staff members figuring out who's going to manage which events and who wants to take that on, because that's a big challenge, and it's a lot to take on your shoulders, especially the bigger events where like the League of Legends tournament or something like the Masquerade, where you are just coordinating all year round, and finding people that are willing to volunteer to do that. And sometimes you end up having a lot more on your plate than you were expecting, and you're standing in for somebody who wasn't there, and you're like, okay, so now I'm wearing like 10 different hats opposed to the one that I started with. But the key thing is, having your staff and being incredibly organized, and keeping track of all of your information, because otherwise it's a complete mess. Yes?
Joshua Wiley from WCCA TV. Just wondering with the artist alley, or whatever you call it here.
I know it's the artist colony. We call it something a little different.
I'm just wondering why it has to, as an artist myself, I'm just wondering why they require a Connecticut state license for that, and which the license itself costs like $100.
Well, no, that's a great question, and I'm willing to answer that. The thing is that in order to sell, at least here in Hartford, you need a dealer's license. Otherwise, they won't let you sell here, at least in the convention center. So you absolutely need one in order to sell. That's why they require that of the artist alley. They also require it of the dealers, and also, if you're an online media guest, they require the same thing. But that's just Hartford's rule, and especially the convention center's rule, because they're very strict about that. But that's the reason why.
Okay, I was just wondering because I'm from Massachusetts and we have.
That's great. So am I. I'm from Boston. It's a different beast down here.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Yes.
Jason Lenetsky, Cosplay NYC magazine. I was wondering if you wanted to comment at all about yesterday and going between the festival going on outside of the convention. We had a lot of reports of the cosplayers and other people trying to get through and having a lot of issues with the people that were out there for that festival. And some of it was not quite legal at all.
It's tough when it comes to a large event on this scale, because there were so many things happening this weekend. Obviously, there was ConnectiCon and Riverfest, and I believe Dave Matthews was performing last night as well. So there were like thousands of people in Hartford. I don't know all the logistical information on that, but when it comes to an event that large, it's hard to really control what's happening like outside of the walls of the convention center. So while we're in charge of what happens here in like the Marriott and the convention center, Hartford Hilton, anything that happens over, say, at the riverfront or somewhere else in Hartford is out of our control, but we try and keep an eye on it. There were also some really positive things with us working with Riverfest, because we also worked with them when we did a kids costume contest for the first time. So our members of Cosplay HQ were over there, and they did a little contest for the kids and won little prizes. It was cute. I think a lot of staff watched the fireworks up here, and a lot of them went down to the actual riverfront as well. I think it just gets a little complicated because there's a lot of people there, and so we do our best between Hartford's cops and security. Excuse me, my phone is off. I'm terrible. We just said not to have them on.
I didn't mention that.
But like as I said, it just takes an effort between us and security and the Hartford police to make sure that everything is running smoothly, and that if we find that there were some problems we dealt with, we'll discuss afterwards and figure out how to prevent them from happening again.
I have a question.
Sure.
What are some of the pros and cons of being a vice president in comparison to your old ranking?
I think the biggest thing is that I can push things forward that would take a little bit longer, and get things off the ground, like the YouTube station and the social media were just not happening until I became VP. And once when I was VP, I grabbed my friend Kristen, who's the director of programming. She actually just sat down over there. Everyone waved. And the two of us kind of took control and started doing the YouTube station and Twitter and Tumblr. Once when I was VP, that's also when the photography department happened, because I just wanted to get the ball rolling on things. So I mean, that's the biggest thing. And it's more stressful because now I have a lot more on my plate and a lot more to think about. I have a wonderful executive assistant who's sitting over there, and she helps me remember everything. It's just a lot. I think the hardest thing for me though is that like I love doing all the main events still, and I like love performing because that's what I came here to do, and that's where my background is. And you know, now I find that I can't be in everything anymore, so I do like the two performances that I can, and like I can't be in everything, so I have to make sure that I'm available to run the actual convention. And that's hard. That's difficult because it's something I miss doing, but you know, I have to pass off the reins to my amazing staff. So that's the biggest thing. Okay, I'm gonna pass this off to you and see what's up with her.
Well, that's awesome. We have time for one more question.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Anyone?
You got two? We'll take the last two. How's that sound?
Okay, that's
Okay.
Obviously, as you get closer and closer to the actual convention date, I imagine it gets more and more stressful. Do you ever have a breaking point where you just feel like you just want to throw your hands up and walk away, but you know, really can't?
No, I mean, there's times when I get like really frustrated, and when that happens, I get kind of sassy. But that's about it. Like, I've never gotten to the point where I'm just like, oh, I never want to do this again, and like throw my hands up. I know there's other staff members that get to that point, but it requires a great deal of patience to do this job. And you know, I like to laugh, so as soon as like a catastrophe is over, I immediately go into the hindsight 2020 and start laughing about it, because I'd rather be happy than, you know, frustrated and angry. And you know, as I said, these are volunteer positions, so you know, I don't let everything get to my head, and I want to be able to make sure that everything is running smoothly. So, but yes, I would say that other members have gotten to that point, and I think that's pretty normal because it's a very long, sleepless weekend. You had a question?
Yeah. I have many friends that had gone ahead and they had pre-planned and prepaid for things like ConnectiCon and Anime Next and all these things, all these other conventions. And then I looked at them and I said, what about ConnectiCon? And they looked down the list of guests, and they're just sitting there going, crap, why didn't I go to ConnectiCon this year with the whole list of childhood on the guest list? How are you guys able to pull off such an amazing list this year?
You know, that's up to our amazing guest relations team. We have 3 directors. We have Hannah Burnett, Joe Corso, and then Kate Tessman, who runs our online media department. And they're the people that are responsible for bringing in all these people every year. Matt Diggle, the president, usually has a vision of what he wants as well and really pushes for it. Every year that we do this, we find that bringing in celebrities from our childhood is the more popular way to go, because these are people that we all grew up with and everyone wants to meet. And even like the kids that are like in their teens now seem to appreciate those particular celebrities or actors. If not, they definitely love our online media guests because everything's on YouTube now. I don't think YouTube's more popular than TV at this point. But it's up to our amazing guest relations team, because they are the ones that really pull it together every single year. And we really could not do it without them.
I agree. Unfortunately, we are pressed for time, but everyone, Ryan Pagella.
Thank you.
Please keep looking on.
I was going to say, if you want to find out the numbers of closing ceremonies, the numbers of ConnectiCon, of who attended, come to closing ceremonies in the Marriott Ballroom, and we'll be able to give you that information tonight. That's at 4 o'clock. All right, thank you.
Thank
Have
you,
a great
Brian.
day, guys.